There's a kind of fear that only comes out in the dark. For centuries, we've told ourselves the monsters aren't real, that they're just stories, but sometimes the stories are real. The dark doesn't make the monsters, it just hides them. For most people, night is for rest, a quiet time, but for some, that's when the real trouble begins. Tonight, we'll look at 3 of those stories. The first one takes us to New Orleans, over 100 years ago, about a killer who left behind a strange calling card and whose story still feels unsettling today. Story 1: Night Shift Horror. The fluorescent lights of a rural gas station can feel like the only thing for miles. They have a hum, an electric buzz that just makes the silence feel bigger. If you're the one working the night shift, alone, that sound is your only company for hours. The job is mostly boredom, cleaning, stalking, staring at the clock. But in the back of your mind, you know you're isolated. A single point of light on a long, dark road. A target for anyone who means harm. This story comes from a guy who used to work a shift just like that. A small convenience store. A few pumps, miles from the next town. Most nights were the same. A trucker stopping for coffee, a local coming in for cigarettes. The rest of the time was quiet, routine. But one night, that routine was broken. It was after 2 in the morning, that time of night when the world just seems to stop. Even the highway was quiet. The clerk was mopping the floors, a simple task, when he saw the van. It was old, didn't stand out, and it was circling the parking lot. Slowly. It didn't pull up to a pump. No one got out. It just made one slow loop, then parked in the darkest corner. The engine was still running. A knot formed in the clerk's stomach. This was different. Something was wrong. He stopped mopping. He moved behind the counter, keeping his eyes on the van. The minutes felt like hours. Nothing happened. He started to doubt himself. Maybe it was just someone, tired, pulling over to rest. He tried to go back to his work, but he couldn't stop thinking about that dark van. Then, something moved. The van's side door slid open. A woman got out. She looked frantic, looking back at the van. Then, she started running toward the store, but not to the front door, the one that was lit up and unlocked. She ran to the locked employee door on the side of the building. She started banging on it. Her voice was muffled. "Help me. Please let me in. He's trying to hurt me." The clerk's heart was pounding. Every instinct told him it was a trap. Why the locked side door? Why not the front? His mind was racing. If he opened that door, what was waiting for him? Was the man in the van still there? Was she telling the truth? Or was she bait? He was alone. Miles from help. A cold dread washed over him. He backed away from the counter and grabbed the heaviest thing he could find, a big metal thermos for coffee. His hand was shaking as he pulled out his phone. He dialed 911. His voice was just a whisper as he tried to explain what was happening. While he was on the phone, the banging stopped. He looked. The woman was gone. He crept back to the window and looked out into the dark. The van was still there, a shadow in the corner. He felt a surge of adrenaline. Then he saw headlights on the highway. They slowed down. It was his boss, making a surprise visit to check on the store. The moment his boss's car pulled in, the van's engine roared. It sped out of the lot and vanished down the highway. When the police got there, the danger was gone. But the real horror of it wasn't clear yet. The officers asked to see the security tapes. The clerk and his boss stood in the back office, watching the small, grainy screen. They saw the van circle. They saw the woman run to the side door. But the camera at the front of the store showed them something else. Something the clerk couldn't have seen. While the woman was banging on the side door, 2 other people had slipped out of the van. They both had masks on. They moved low and fast, hiding in the shadows on either side of the front entrance. The clerk felt the blood drain from his face. It was a setup. The woman was the bait. If he had run to the front door to let her in, they would have ambushed him. They had him boxed in. His choice to stay put, to call for help, had saved his life. The most unsettling part came later. The police went to look at the spot where the van had been parked. It had rained recently, so the ground was soft. They found the tire tracks from the van, but there were no footprints from the 3 people who were inside. It was as if, after the boss showed up and ruined their plan, they had just disappeared. The police filed it as an attempted robbery. But for the clerk, it felt like something worse. He was haunted by how planned it was, how cold. A reminder that in the deep, quiet hours of the night, the monsters can be very real. Story 2. The Axeman's Calling Card. Some monsters don't need to be stories. Their terror is real, written down in history books. A stain on a city. Back in 1918, the Great War was ending. But in New Orleans, Louisiana, a different kind of war was just beginning. A fight against a shadow who made the hot southern nights feel cold with dread. They never caught him. His identity is still a mystery. They just called him the Axeman. Between May of 1918 and October of 1919, a fear fell over the city. It started with the Italian-American grocers. The attacks all had the same strange signature. The killer got inside not by breaking a lock, but by chiseling a panel out of the back door. He'd leave the panel and the chisel behind. Once he was inside, he didn't take money or valuables. He only went for the people sleeping in their beds. His weapon was an axe, usually one he found in their own backyard. It began on May 23, 1918. A grocer named Joseph Maggio and his wife Catherine were attacked in their sleep. The killer used a straight razor on their throats, then an axe. The scene was brutal. Nothing was stolen. The only clue was a message written in chalk on the sidewalk, but the rain washed it away before anyone could figure out what it said. The city was horrified, but it was just the start. A month later, another grocer, Louis Bessumer, and his mistress, Harriet Lowe, were attacked. They were both hit with an axe. They were found alive, but Harriet died later. Before she passed, she whispered that the man was tall and heavy-set. The attacks kept coming, always the same way. A young pregnant woman, Anna Schneider, was attacked, but survived. She had a healthy baby girl. 2 days later, an old man, Joseph Romano, was killed. The Cortimiglia family was attacked in their beds, a husband, a wife, and their 2-year-old daughter. The little girl didn't make it. A panic started to spread through the city. People began to think the killer wasn't a man, but some kind of demon. Families stayed up all night, taking turns on watch with shotguns. The police had no leads. And then, the Axeman decided to write a letter. In March of 1919, a letter showed up at the Times-Picayune newspaper. It said it was from hell. The tone was arrogant, evil. It read, "They have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman." The letter mocked the police. It warned them not to try and find him. But the end of the letter had the strangest offer. The writer said he loved the new music in the city, jazz. He wrote, "At 12:05 earthly time, on next Tuesday night, I am going to pass over New Orleans. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils, that every person shall be spared, in whose home a jazz band is in full swing. Some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night will get the axe. The city had a strange choice to make: play music or risk death. They chose the music. That Tuesday night, New Orleans was filled with sound. Jazz bands played in houses all over the city. Dance halls were packed, the music spilling into the streets. It was like a prayer against a madman. And it worked. No one was killed that night. The Axeman attacked a few more times after his letter. His last known victim was in October 1919. And then, just like that, he was gone. The attacks stopped. The city slowly started to sleep again, but the fear never really went away. The Axeman was never found. We'll never know who he was or why he did it. Was he just a man? Or, as the letter said, something else? To this day, the story is a reminder that the worst kind of evil is the kind that's never explained. The night is full of strange stories. If you want to hear more, think about subscribing to the channel. We have a lot more tales from the dark to share. Now, let's look at a different kind of terror. Not one with an axe, but one that started with a simple sound. Story 3. The Rappings in Hydesville. Sometimes, the terror isn't a person. It's just a sound you can't place, a presence you can't see. In a quiet little town called Hydesville, New York, back in 1848, a different kind of fear began. It didn't start with violence. It started with a series of knocks that would haunt a family and start a worldwide movement. This is the story of the Fox sisters, and the night the dead supposedly began to talk. The Fox family had just moved into a small farmhouse. Right away, they started hearing strange noises at night: bumps, scrapes, soft thuds from the walls and floors. At first, they thought it was just the house settling, or maybe rats, but the sounds kept happening. They were too rhythmic. The real strangeness started on the 31st of March, 1848. The two youngest daughters, 15-year-old Margaret and 11-year-old Kate, were in their room when the rapping started again, louder this time. Kate got tired of being scared. She decided to challenge whatever was making the noise. "Mr. Splitfoot," she said into the dark, using a kid's name for the devil. "Do as I do." She clapped her hands twice. From the walls, 2 knocks answered back. Silence. She clapped 4 times. 4 knocks replied, right in sync. A chill went through the room. Margaret joined in. They found out this unseen thing would respond to them. They were scared but curious, so they called their mother. At first, she thought it was a prank, but her daughters were clearly terrified, so she decided to test it. "Count to 10, she said. 10 knocks echoed in the room. She asked it to rap out the ages of her children. It did, correctly. Shaking, she asked the final question: "If you are an injured spirit, manifest it by 3 raps." 3 loud knocks confirmed her fear. Slowly, by asking yes or no questions and creating a code, a story came out. The spirit said he was a peddler who had been murdered in that house years ago. His body, he claimed, was buried in the cellar. News of the Hydesville rapping spread fast. Neighbors came to the small house every night to hear it for themselves. They'd ask the spirit personal questions, things no one else could know, and the spirit would answer with knocks. The nightly sessions became a local event. Some came to debunk it, but left believing they'd seen something real. The Fox sisters were no longer just farm girls. They were mediums. Their older sister, Leah, saw a chance. She moved the girls to Rochester, and they started doing public shows. Their fame grew. They became the center of a new movement called Spiritualism, the belief that the living could talk to the dead. For decades, the Fox sisters were celebrities. They toured America and Europe, showing their abilities to packed rooms. The simple knocking that started in their dark bedroom had become something huge. But the darkness from that first night never left the sisters. They were always being accused of being fakes. The pressure and other troubles led them to drink and poverty. The game, if that's what it was, had taken over their lives. Then came the confession. It was 1,888, 40 years after that first night. A tired, broke Margaret Fox stood on a stage in New York City and told the truth. It was all a hoax. She said the rapping sounds weren't spirits. It was just her and her sister, cracking the joints in their toes and ankles. She took off her shoe and showed the stunned crowd, making the same rapping sounds that had convinced the world. She said it started as a prank on their mother and just got too big to stop. The confession was a shock to the spiritualist movement. Their founders were frauds, but for many believers, it didn't matter. The idea was bigger than the sisters now. Some said Margaret was paid to lie. Others said she wasn't well. Margaret herself later took back her confession, but it was too late. The sisters died poor and mostly forgotten, their story tangled up in belief and lies. The story of the Fox sisters is a different kind of nighttime terror. It's not about a physical threat. It's about the power of the unknown and how badly people want to find answers in the dark. Whether it was a ghost in the walls or a trick with their toes, the rappings that started in that small farmhouse prove that sometimes the scariest thing the night can give you is a question that never really gets answered. From a phantom killer in New Orleans, to a lonely road in the middle of the night, to a simple sound in a dark room that changed what people believed, the night will always have its mysteries. The sun goes down, and the world gets quiet, and in that quiet, you're left to wonder what's really out there in the dark. If you enjoyed these stories and want more tales from the dark, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.